I'm going to another fantastic guest. Like I said, we had a full show today. We are joined with Daniel Kincaid. I'm sorry, Daniel Kovalik, not Kincaid, Kovalik. He is an American human rights, labor rights lawyer and political activist. Previously taught at the International Human Rights of University of Pittsburgh. I think I got that right. I didn't add any weird stuff to it. Good.
Yes,
because look, I had to trim the thing because it was like, okay, this is so wrong, right? The bio. Thank you for joining me, man. I really appreciate you joining me. You
Very
were another
welcome.
person that I really wanted to talk to today because of, as I tell my audience, when I'm having these conversations, I actually want to have these conversations. Like the hardest show in the world is a show where you don't care about anything that's going on.
Right.
Today, I cared about pretty much everything. So I'm happy that you can join me.
Thank you.
There are multiple things that were bubbling up yesterday, one of which was a clip that blew my mind by Mahmoud Abbas. Now, Mahmoud Abbas, Palestinian Authority, president of the Palestinian Authority, for whatever that means or whatever that matters, not, in my experience, deeply unpopular. And part of the reason is, to make an analogy, the jailer, the Jew that held the other Jews in jail. To make an analogy, if you want to tell me I'm full of it on that one, please do.
No. I mean, he is a total puppet of the Israeli occupation. I mean, essentially, the Palestinian Authority under his rule does the bidding of Israel. They arrest Palestinians for Israel. They kill Palestinians for Israel. They keep the people under wraps. He's a vile person. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, he's very unpopular for those reasons. And I don't have enough bad things to say about him. I mean, is the truth.
I have yet to hear a person say anything good about Mahmoud
He's a
Abbas.
sellout. He's a sellout. You know, he gets money from Israel and pockets it and does nothing for his own people.
So he gave this fiery denunciation. And I think that, the thing is at the bottom.
حرب الإبادة الإسرائيلية التي يتعرض لها قطاع غزة هذه فعلا يجب أن تتوقف. كل يوم في مئات القتلى. ليش الناس نسلم الرهين الأمريكية؟ طب يا أولاد الكلب سلموا اللي عندكم هذول وخلصونا من الشغلة.
All right. Now, what he's saying, just for the audience, in case they can't hear it, effectively, why don't you give up your weapons? Why don't you give up American hostages? Give us your weapons, you sons of bitches. I suppose the translation is in real world translation as opposed to sons of dogs. He's effectively talking about Hamas. Like, let the hostages go. Give your weapons to us, to the Palestinian Authority. What are you doing? All of these people are dying. All of these people are being killed. And, you and I were talking last night. There is a deep contradiction in resistance. Oh, there's a deep contradiction. Because two things can be happening. One, he is being pushed by Israel to say this. Two, he may actually mean it. We're the Palestinian Authority. We think we're saving lives in the way that we're trying to save lives, meaning this is maybe the way he frames it in the state. If I give him the best framing in the world. You guys have started a war that is getting all of these people killed. Now, I would argue that war has been going on for 70-something years, but whatever. You guys have done something that is getting all of these people killed, 50 to 100,000. God knows how many are in the rubble. Look at everything that's taken place. This is your fault. Give hostages. Give us your guns. Do something different. Now, that is deeply unsatisfying. To be just bluntly honest, that is deeply unsatisfying. Because the other alternative is, then what? Like, just accept the position you're in? Give me your take on this. For one, give me your take on what he said.
First of all, even if Hamas did that, there's no guarantee that the results would be any different than they are now. I mean, and also look at the West Bank, where the Palestinian Authority, does govern to some extent. They're being clobbered by Israel right now as we speak. Right. I mean, Israel's been destroying refugee camps, been engaged in mass arrests, including of children. And those people arrested are tortured. They've been assassinating people in in the West Bank. The point is, it's not like the Palestinian Authority is making those people safe. Now, of course, compared to Gaza, I guess anywhere in the world is safer than Gaza at the moment.
Yeah.
That is true. But that was always true in Palestine. I mean, the West Bank was always safer than Gaza for various reasons. But again, Abbas cannot guarantee the safety of the people in Gaza in any case. And the truth is, by the way, I mean, Hamas has put a proposal on the table. I mean, where they've offered to give back all the hostages. By the way, they were willing to give back all the hostages on day one if Israel didn't invade, and they are willing to give all the hostages back now if Israel just stops the war. I mean, they're willing to do pretty much anything to end this war. So, and guess what? Israel's not interested in that deal because they don't care about the hostages. Okay,
Right.
so, and they don't care about anything really except destroying Gaza. I mean, they want to destroy Gaza, and it's not about destroying Hamas. They want to destroy Gaza. They want to totally depopulate it. So, first of all, there's nothing that could, again, making this deal with the Palestinian Authority, I don't think will save Gaza.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I mean, if Abbas could prove he was protecting his own people in the West Bank, that'd be one thing. But he can't. He can't show that.
I mean, even settlers, right? I mean, I was talking to a guy when I was on a radio station, and he lived in the West Bank, and he was talking about how the day before he was on the phone call with us, he was beaten by settlers. I think like broke his leg or arm or something to that effect. And the soldiers were effectively standing there guarding the settlers as they had destroyed property, destroyed people, etc. And this seems to be just a pattern where we don't even report. Like, this is one of those things where it's just, we're talking about Gaza, ignoring what is taking place, this kind of corralling, this killing, this beating, this injuring.
What happens every day? And they destroy livestock, they destroy olive trees, with the Israeli Defense Forces standing by to, allow that to happen. Of course, let's remember that the Palestinian who won, the Academy Award, his film won the Academy Award for Best Documentary. About 2 weeks after that, 2 weeks after he was in Hollywood holding the Oscar, he was in the West Bank being lynched by settlers. Now, he was ended up surviving, but he was arrested. He was tortured. This guy won the Academy Award. Okay, he was on world TV with the Academy Award. The point is, if they will do that to someone like him, they'll do it to anyone. And meanwhile, the IDF recently shot two young Palestinian Americans, two young teenagers who also were Americans, who held U.S. passports, and no one cares about them.
By the way, Netanyahu went to the White House a day after they murdered that American.
Yeah, and no one cares. No one cares about him. No one cares about the Turkish American who was killed by the Israeli Defense Forces in the West Bank when she was involved in a peaceful protest. I mean, so there's no limits on Israel. And again, it doesn't matter if it's Hamas. It doesn't matter if it's the Palestinian Authority. That's completely irrelevant. And one at least can say with Hamas at the moment, at least Hamas is resisting. At least they're going down with a fight, which is more than the Palestinian Authority can say.
What does he think that if the Palestinian Authority was, in fact, do something for me, explain the history between these two groups? I know Israel at one point was feeding Hamas, like Joe Scarborough said, you fed that wolf. That's the Joe Scarborough when he was browbeating, I forget who was on, it might have been Netanyahu, I don't think it was Netanyahu, but whoever it was. Yeah, it was Netanyahu. He was browbeating him because of Joe Biden at that point was annoyed. But there was a point where Israel was effectively assisting in the Hamas because they wanted this dichotomy between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. Effectively, we want to make Hamas the face of resistance, not whatever's coming out of the PLO at the time.
Yeah.
And of course, No,
Yeah, I
please.
mean, well, yeah. So first of all, the Palestinian Authority grew out of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, which was founded, the main leader by Yasser Arafat in the I believe, late 1960s, and it had I would say, honorable reputation in history for some time as a resistance organization, and it ended up negotiating the Oslo agreements in the early 1990s, which was supposed to result in a two-state solution. Okay, and the Palestinian Authority was ostensibly created out of the PLO to govern the Palestinians in the West Bank, to lay the groundwork for the West Bank to become
A state.
a
Of
separate
course.
state. And that was true in Gaza. The Palestinian Authority played essentially the same role there too. Um, in Gaza, ultimately, as you said, it is true, Israel helped support Hamas, not because they liked Hamas, but they wanted to undermine the Palestinian Authority, because they never wanted the two-state solution to happen. So they wanted to undermine the Palestinian Authority. So they did support Hamas. Ultimately, Hamas was elected as the government of Gaza in 2006, I believe, or 2006, 2009. Anyway, around that period. And they have governed ever since. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Authority has governed the entire, time in the West Bank. But again, the two-state solution never happened. The Palestinian Authority, especially after Yasser Arafat's death, really calcified in the West Bank, and again became nothing but an Israeli proxy. It really morphed into something kind of the opposite of what the PLO was at one point. And even, I think, has tarnished Yasser Arafat's legacy quite a bit. I mean, there's still a lot of people, a lot of Palestinians who love Yasser Arafat, but a lot kind of retroactively felt that he sold them out with the Oslo agreements, which have done nothing for the Palestinian people.
I mean, I think the problem is they were in a weaker position in the negotiation. I mean, you have the United States, who's effectively an ally of Israel, negotiating a deal with with another group. So how is the US, who has given billions to this entity, negotiating an agreement that's going to be fair in the way that the agreement is built? Or am I wrong in this? Did Bill
No,
Clinton
well, of
negotiate
course.
this
I mean,
honestly?
yeah, I mean, the U.S., as people would say, is the mediator in its own negotiations, because in
Exactly.
the end, right, this is as much the U.S.'s war as it is Israel's. And that's why you see that the U.S. is not ultimately bargaining in good faith, nor is Israel, in the sense that they had a ceasefire. Let's remember, there was a ceasefire deal that Hamas was honoring. Israel never honored it, and then began to really violate it even more when it stopped allowing any aid into Gaza. And that's now been, I think we're on the verge of 2 months that there's no food or water or anything allowed into Gaza, in violation of the ceasefire agreement, which Israel had agreed to and the U.S. had approved. And now they want to renegotiate the deal with Hamas, right? I mean, this is what they do constantly. How can you negotiate under those circumstances? And again, it needs to be said, you don't even need an agreement for food and medicine and water to be sent to Gaza, because international humanitarian law requires that to be done anyway. But they're forcing Hamas to negotiate over whether something Israel's legally required to do is going to be done, right? And again, the U.S. is part of those negotiations. So it's an absurd no-win situation that Hamas has been put into, because again, it's not about, they don't want a win-win, which is, how you negotiate something. They want to win-lose. They want Israel to win, and not only Hamas, but all the Palestinians in Gaza to lose. So there's no way for Hamas to negotiate their way out of this. They've all more or less agreed. Well, they have agreed to everything that Israel claims it wants
As you said,
to
they
end
don't
this
care.
war, and Israel still won't take that deal. because
Yeah, everything.
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Please, I thought you paused. I'm sorry. That's
because
on me.
what they want is not what they say they want. What they want is to destroy Gaza, right? And that ultimately is what they're doing. And so there's no way to negotiate out of that situation.
I saw this yesterday. Somebody put it on Twitter, and they didn't put the article on Twitter. They put a quote from it on Twitter, effectively saying Israel wants to give Palestinians $5,000 to leave Gaza. They give them jobs. They go to France, UK, etc. They have magnificent lives. You know, they get free food on the weekends and whatever. And there's a long thread on Reddit that goes into it that talks about it. I didn't want to use Reddit because at the very time it was discounted, suspended. So I went to Haaretz. Haaretz also tracked down some of these text messages that were going out to various people. And the messages have effectively gone through the roof, the Gaza Strip. Now, for whatever reason, Haaretz has this annoying ad here, but it says Palestine is not for sale. Hamas calls Palestinians to ignore texts promoting immigration from Gaza. Israel, when contacted about this, was like, we have no idea what you're talking about. No clue. Now, the text messages effectively say, hey, contact so-and-so, part of the Israeli Defense Force, and we will work out something. Now, Hamas' point is they are trying to get spies into the ranks. Do not pay attention to these texts. They're not letting you go out. They're not going to give you $5,000, and they're not giving you a trip to Paris or France. I believe it is true. They want these people to leave. I do not believe Netanyahu is giving these people $5,000. And Israel itself does not own up to the fact that they're sending these text messages.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to give that money. I mean, first of all, Israel doesn't have that money to give. Their economy's in a shambles. But also, all they would have to do is open up the Rafah crossing, and there would be many Palestinians who would go into Egypt at this point because things are so bad in Gaza. But instead, Israel has closed the Rafah crossing. There is no way out for those people.
Mhm.
So it makes no sense that they would pay people to leave when they won't even let them out if they wanted to go now, right? So again, what does that lead to? What conclusion must be drawn is they don't just want the Palestinians to leave Gaza. They want to murder the Palestinians. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're killing children, right? They are killing the future of Palestine. Again, that's why this is a genocide. It's not just an ethnic cleansing. They are trying to destroy the Palestinians as a people.
But Egypt did not want them in Egypt. So would
Well,
Egypt
they
even let
didn't
them?
want them en masse. That's true. But they were allowing people in. They allowed at least about 100,000 Palestinians in if they were wounded or if they could pay a certain amount of money, $5,000 to $6,000 per adult, $1,000 per child.
Where are they going to get $5,000?
There were people who did it. I know Palestinians who did that. They sold everything they owned. They depleted all their savings. Some had, of course, relatives in Europe or other places who were making some money. They got it from them, and yeah, so there were tens of thousands of Palestinians who took that deal, paid, for their entire family $15,000-$20,000 to one company that's owned by the son of the president of Egypt. So Egypt made millions of dollars off the suffering of the Palestinian people, and again, allowed about 100,000 to move into Egypt. By the way, those people have no rights. They can't work. They really have no immigration status. They can't travel because they can't get papers from Egypt. So they're being exploited. But the point is, they did allow a certain number in, and I'm sure would continue to allow a certain number in if that crossing were allowed to be open, but it's not.
That is disgusting.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry,
the
that is
reality.
disgusting. I know that's reality, but gee,
It's a horrible reality, and many of the Palestinians, again, I went to Cairo. I met with many of these Palestinians. Many who don't have means are living in basically these tenements with other Palestinians. They're like ghettos. No other people are allowed to go there, and they're living in terrible circumstances. They don't have money for food. They don't have health care. Again, it's such an
These
awful situation. You know.
these Arab governments, like, for fuck's sake, like, you get all of these Arab governments that are like, oh my God, I can't believe Israel is doing this. Across the Middle East, oh my God, I can't believe this is outrageous. Israel's committing a genocide. They would have all of these harsh words. And then will ruthlessly exploit the poorest of the poorest who are in a situation that they themselves define as a genocide. That is astonishing. Like,
Yeah, it's astonishing. No, they're part of the problem. You know. I know one woman there. She came from Gaza after her. She lost her husband. She lost her eldest son in an attack by the Israelis on a school they were staying at. Her youngest daughter and older daughter were both wounded, so they were allowed to go to Turkey. The two daughters. She was able to get out into Egypt, where she is now, but her two sons, two younger sons, are still in Gaza. So, can you imagine that? She's separated from her two younger sons who still are in Gaza and are not allowed in Egypt. And after losing her husband and her elder son. I mean, it's
oh,
just,
jeez.
and then there's many stories like this, you know? So, no, in the Arab countries, like especially the Gulf states, UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, but also Egypt, Jordan, they're part of the problem. They're complicit in all this. And Turkey, which is not Arab, but it is a Muslim country, is supplying oil to Israel. If Israel wasn't getting the oil that Turkey was supplying from Azerbaijan, which is another Muslim country, by the way, Israel couldn't prosecute this war, and yet that continues. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's so many people with their fingerprints on this crime. It's like an Agatha Christie novel,
Yeah.
really.
Is the issue that the U.S. has associations, has some, the term Quisling governments have been used to describe the Gulf states?
Well, yes, in a sense, although, yes, but, you know, certainly in the case of Egypt and Jordan, you could say they depend on the aid from the U.S. to keep
Mhm.
going. Okay, so they're in a certain situation. That's not true of the Gulf states. They're oil rich, very rich countries. They could stand up to the U.S. if they wanted to, and they have in the
And they
past. They
have,
did in 1973 with the oil embargo. Um, so, but they obviously think it's in their self-interest to continue to play ball with the U.S. and Israel. Qatar has actually been involved in joint military exercises with Israel
yeah,
in
especially
Greece.
with Iran.
You know, it's shameful. It's just shameful. These are very corrupt governments all the way around, you know, but again, some of that, you know, the US and Britain and other Western countries did their best to get rid of independent, secular, nationalist governments like the one
Nasty.
of Nasser in Egypt, right? I mean, there were much better governments in these countries, and the US has systematically gotten rid of those governments, and in their place are these Quisling governments, you know.
Last question, and it's historical. I don't entirely know the answer to it. The elections that took place where Hamas beat the Palestinian Authority. I remember Hillary Clinton was like, she said something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, if you wanted a result, you should have made sure the result was exactly what you wanted. Effectively saying you shouldn't have let them win. Like, you should
Right.
have been true-ted in that election to make sure you got the government that you wanted. I've heard that there were killings. I've heard that there was threats being leveled, like meaning that it was somewhat of a harshly fought election. I mean that in every term of the word harsh. Was the Palestinian Authority at that point in the Gaza just unpopular? Was
Yeah, they
Hamas
were unpopular because they were not advancing the interests of the Palestinian people there.
okay?
In the way that they're not in the West Bank. And again, if there were popular elections in the West Bank, you better believe that Abbas would not win that, and the
They would lose.
Palestinian Authority wouldn't win that. And that's why they aren't holding elections in the West Bank. They haven't for years because they know they'd lose. No, Hamas won fair and square. And in fact, at first, there were some Western news outlets who welcomed it as a democratic victory, and then they quickly turned on them because they didn't like, the nature of them. But in any case, it was they were democratically chosen,
As a government, what were they advocating for? What were they pushing for? Because it's a revolutionary government. It's right. It's kind of like I want to use South Africa as a template, kind of, where you get the after apartheid, you get this ANC coming into power, and they're like, we have a mandate from the people to do something very specific. It's not like the U.S. government where Democrats get in and they're like, yeah, we're just holding back Republicans. It's not random. It's very specific. We have a revolutionary government that we're trying to change the status of this situation on the ground. What were they pushing for when they first got in office?
Well, they certainly wanted at least a Palestinian state, which again the PLO had agreed to with Israel, but that promise was never kept, and Hamas wanted that promise kept. I mean, first of all, it's not, there's divisions within Hamas. There's divisions within Fatah, which is the party of the Palestinian Authority.
Mm-hmm.
Some want that two-state solution, though I think many realize that that's not a possibility anymore. Israel's made that impossible. So they want a one state that is multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious, one person, one vote, right? And the Israelis who would want to stay under those circumstances could stay. But they would be one, each of them would get one vote like all the other people. And the Israelis don't want that because they would be outnumbered and would lose, the government. So, but there's some people that want that one state solution, which I think, by the way, is becoming a more common demand. Again, because where is the Palestinian state going to be now? Gaza's destroyed. The West Bank is carved up in all these with all these settlements. So really, I think the only option is this multi-ethnic state, one person, one vote.
This will sound very bad, and so I don't say this in a pleasant sense. I say this as an African American in America. I get the sense that it is going to be very difficult to kill 2 million people. They could do it. We will give them the weapons to do it, but it would be very difficult even for a fascist regime to do it, whether that's in the West Bank or whether that's in Gaza. And if indeed they are trying to subsume all of Gaza and subsume all of West Bank as, okay, all of this is now Israel that we're accepting, and we are going to run an apartheid state because we have to. Otherwise, it's not going to be a Jewish state. It's going to be a state for everybody, and we're going to be outnumbered in the vote. And I get the sense that what would need to take place is a resistance inside Israel in the same way that African Americans had to push and push, going all the way back from slavery. Meaning, in the same way that South Africa had this fight over apartheid, the fight that may take place, and I could be talking to my ass on this, but that may take place is internally in this kind of political way of trying to get rights, trying to push and push and push for some level of equality within the context of the state. That, if that's true, that is like 100 years. I think of how long.
I mean, and there's not really a political party that of any size that represents that view within Israel. I mean, there used to be a strong left in Israel. There was a strong Communist Party, Labor Party. They're not. I think the Communist Party maybe has 1 or 2 seats in the Knesset now. I mean, they're tiny, and there's really no Labor Party to speak of. I mean, it's pretty monolithic within Israel proper. I mean, there are many Arabs who are Israeli, who have Israeli citizenship who live there, but they're second-class citizens. They're not organized. The point is, there's no one to really fight that fight within Israel proper, right? And so, as you say, I don't see that really happening. And that's why the armed resistance amongst the Palestinians really is necessary because,
That's
there
all there
is
is.
no viable political option to change the system. Yeah.
Daniel, man, I love these. I love to explore this stuff, and
I
thank
enjoy
you.
it. Yeah, of
for the-
course.
and thank you for the history lesson on this. I wasn't I understood the basics, but I didn't understand how that changeover took place. In fact, I remember Yasser Arafat. That's part of
Yeah,
my
of course.
political history. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
people used to have posters of them in their house. By the way, I just want to show my book here, The Case for
please,
Palestine, Why It Matters,
absolutely.
Why You Should Care. You can get it on Amazon or at my publisher, skyhorsepublishing.com. And anyway, I do talk about all that history in there and more. So
Check this book out, especially if you care about this issue. I will tell you, I've had people sending me emails. We must talk about the Palestinian issue. Please keep talking about the Palestinian issue. Don't stop talking about this issue. Dan Kovalik, he's an American human rights, labor rights lawyer, political activist, author. You just saw his book. He was previously on international human rights at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law, and great friend of the show. Thank you for this. I really do appreciate it.
long live and prosper. Thank you.
I know.
Thank you,
You
my
have a
friend.
good one.
Take care now.
You too.
Okay.
Bye bye. All right. I really appreciate the conversation with Daniel. He knows this stuff. He literally wrote the book on it. So if you're interested in that book, definitely check him out.